Janitor secretly fixes students' broken laptop every night, never realizing she's the CEO's daughter. The quiet act of kindness happens in the shadows of Westlake University, where Daniel Morrison has spent the last 15 years of his life mopping floors and emptying trash bins long after everyone else has gone home. Tonight, like every night, Daniel's footsteps echo through the empty hallways. At 53, his body carries the weight of a lifetime of labor, calloused hands, a slight limp from an old construction injury, and eyes that have seen more disappointment than dreams come true. But there's a gentleness to his movements, a carefulness that speaks of someone who treats the world with more tenderness than it has shown him. The university buildings grow quiet after 9, when even the most dedicated students and professors have departed. That's when Daniel truly begins his work, not just the cleaning required in his job description, but the small, invisible acts that give him purpose. He pauses outside room 342 in the engineering building, listening for any lingering students before entering. The classroom is empty as expected, the chairs neatly tucked under desks, all except one. In the back corner, partially hidden by the curve of the wall, a laptop sits abandoned, its screen cracked and case dented. Daniel recognizes it immediately. For 3 nights now, he's found it in the same spot, with a yellow sticky note attached, still won't turn on. We'll try again tomorrow. He approaches it with the reverence of someone handling something precious. It's not the first broken device he's found abandoned in classrooms over the years. Students often leave behind the casualties of their hectic lives. Calculators with dead batteries, phones with shattered screens, laptops that won't boot up. What most never realize is that before life narrowed his possibilities, Daniel had been something of a technical genius. Electronics had been his first love, computers his native language. Before the factory closure, before the injury, before the slow cascade of misfortunes that led him here, he slides the laptop carefully into his cleaning cart, hiding it beneath rags and spray bottles. University policy strictly forbids removing anything from the premises, even temporarily. But some rules Daniel has learned matter less than the reasons for breaking them. In the small maintenance closet he's transformed into a workshop. Fluorescent light illuminates shelves of salvage parts, components harvested from discarded electronics over the years. A makeshift workbench fashioned from an old desk occupies one corner, surrounded by carefully organized tools. "Let's see what's troubling you tonight," he murmurs, setting the laptop on the bench. His fingers trace the manufacturer's logo, a high-end model, probably cost more than he makes in 2 months. He wonders briefly about the student who owns it, imagining the panic they must feel at its malfunction. Engineering students live and die by their devices. Daniel works methodically, his movements practiced and precise. He loses himself in the rhythm of diagnosis and repair, the world outside this small space fading away. For these hours, he isn't a janitor. He's an engineer, a problem solver, a man using the gifts that life never let him share with the world. The laptop's issues are complex but not impossible. A damaged power management chip, several loose connections from what appears to be a fall. The screen will need replacement eventually, but he can at least get it functioning again. He works until midnight, then carefully places it back exactly where he found it, this time with a small, neatly printed note beneath the student's original one. "Try it now." Eliza Chen stares at her laptop in disbelief. After sitting lifeless for days, it powers on without hesitation, the screen illuminating despite its spiderweb of cracks. Next to her yellow sticky note is another one she didn't write. "Try it now." The handwriting is neat, almost painfully precise. She glances around the empty classroom, early morning sunlight streaming through tall windows. She's always the first to arrive, a habit instilled by a father who preaches that success belongs to those who outwork everyone else. Her fingers move swiftly across the keyboard, checking if everything still works. Miraculously, all her files are intact, her thesis research carefully compiled over the last 2 years. She'd been on the verge of tears when the laptop died, taking with it work she'd foolishly failed to back up. "Who did this?" she whispers to the empty room. At 22, Eliza carries herself with the controlled poise of someone much older. Her clothes are expensive but understated. No designer logos or flashy accessories that might reveal her as Eliza Chen, daughter of William Chen, CEO of Horizon Technologies. Here at Westlake, she's just another graduate student, exactly as she prefers it. The anonymity had been her one condition when accepting her father's financial support through school. After growing up watching people change when they discovered her family connections, becoming either obsequious or resentful, she craves genuine interactions. Her father hadn't understood, but had eventually respected her wishes. even if it meant she lived in a modest apartment and took public transportation like any other student. She traces the unfamiliar handwriting with her fingertip. Someone had not only fixed her laptop, but had done so secretly, expecting nothing in return. The thought creates an unexpected warmth in her chest. When her classmates begin filing in, Eliza casually asks if anyone knows who might have repaired her laptop. She's met with shrugs and headshakes. The mystery benefactor remains unknown. That night, she leaves a new note. "Thank you. How can I repay you?" Daniel finds the note when he enters the classroom shortly after 10. The words stop him short, a strange tightness forming in his chest. Gratitude is unfamiliar territory. He's spent years working in spaces where his presence is designed to be invisible, his work noticed only when it's not done. He doesn't take the laptop this time. It's working now, after all. But the note burns in his pocket all night as he sweeps floors and wipes down surfaces. During his break, he sits in his small workshop and contemplates a response. What could he possibly ask for? He needs many things. Dental work he can't afford, repairs for his 20-year-old car, a heating system in his apartment that works through an entire winter. But those aren't things you ask of a stranger, especially not a student with their own financial burdens. Finally, he takes a scrap of paper and writes, "No payment necessary. Just be careful not to drop it again." He hesitates, then adds, "The screen should be replaced soon. The cracks will spread." As he tucks the note under the corner of the laptop, he wonders briefly about the student. He's never seen them. Their schedules never intersect. But he imagines a harried young man, probably working part-time jobs to afford tuition. The kind of student who can't simply ask parents for a new laptop when one breaks. Daniel understands that kind of struggle. It had been his once, many years ago, before life's complications forced him to abandon his own education, 3 credits short of a degree in electrical engineering. For Eliza, the mysterious notes become a bright spot in otherwise monotonous days. Her life is structured around expectations. Her father's, her professors, her own punishing standards. The unexpected exchange with a stranger who wants nothing in return feels like finding a crack in a wall she didn't realize was closing in around her. She leaves another note. "I insist. At least let me buy you coffee. And do you know where I could get the screen fixed?" The reply comes the next day. "Any computer repair shop can replace it. The model number is on the bottom if you need parts." No mention of coffee, no name, just practical advice. Eliza is not accustomed to being refused. Not out of entitlement, but because people rarely deny anything to William Chen's daughter, whether they know who she is or not. Something about her carries her father's authority, an unintentional inheritance. She becomes determined to discover her mysterious benefactor. The next morning, she arrives even earlier, hoping to catch them, but the classroom is empty save for a janitor mopping in the hallway. She barely notices him, an older man with graying hair and stooped shoulders, as she checks her laptop for new notes. Finding nothing, she leaves a small gift card to the campus coffee shop with a note. "At least take this. I don't even know your name." Daniel stares at the gift card as if it might bite him. $50, an extravagant amount for coffee. He should return it. University policy explicitly forbids accepting gifts from students. But something stops him. Perhaps the loneliness of recent years, or the simple human connection these notes represent. He takes the card but leaves the equivalent in cash with a note. "I appreciate the thought, but I can't accept gifts." Daniel. He hadn't meant to sign his name. The pen moved almost of its own accord, breaking the anonymity he'd maintained for decades at Westlake. Something about this nameless student has slipped past his carefully constructed walls. That night, Daniel finds himself cleaning the engineering building with extra care, lingering in room 342 longer than necessary. He wonders if he'll regret giving his name, creating a thread that could be followed. The university employs dozens of custodial staff, but only one Daniel in this building. Danielle. Eliza says the name quietly to herself as she reads the note the next morning. She looks at the cash, exactly $50, and feels a complicated mixture of emotions. Whoever this man is, he has integrity and pride. She asks a passing professor about the custodial staff, specifically anyone named Daniel. The professor barely glances up from his phone. "Morrison, probably. He's been here forever. Works nights mostly. Keeps to himself. Daniel Morrison." She has a name now, but it doesn't explain why he would take the time to fix a stranger's laptop, or why he refuses any compensation. In a world where her father taught her that everything and everyone has a price, Daniel Morrison is an anomaly she can't categorize. That evening, Eliza breaks her routine. Instead of leaving campus before sunset, She finds reasons to stay late, moving from the library to study rooms, watching the halls grow quieter as students and faculty trickle out. By 9:30, the building is nearly empty. She waits in a darkened classroom across from 342, the door cracked open just enough to see into the hallway. At 10:15, she sees him, the same janitor she'd barely noticed that morning. He moves methodically, efficiently, wiping down bulletin boards and doorknobs, emptying trash bins. When he enters room 342, Eliza counts to 30, then follows. The door opens silently under her hand. Daniel stands by her desk reading her latest note. Daniel, please accept my thanks if nothing else. You saved my thesis work. I'm Eliza. He looks different than she expected from her brief morning glimpse. Taller, his posture less stooped when he thinks no one is watching. His hands holding her note are strong and capable, with the distinct calluses of someone who works with both tools and cleaning chemicals. Hello, Daniel, she says quietly. He startles, nearly dropping the note, turning to face her with wide eyes. For a moment, he looks almost afraid, like someone caught in wrongdoing, though he's done nothing wrong. I'm sorry, she adds quickly. I didn't mean to surprise you. I'm Eliza, the laptop owner. Daniel's throat works as he swallows. You shouldn't be here this late, miss. Neither should my laptop, she says with a small smile. But you fixed it anyway. His eyes drop to the floor, a habitual deference that bothers her, though she can't articulate why. It was nothing, just a simple repair. It wasn't simple to me. Eliza steps fully into the room. You saved 2 years of research. I don't know much about computers, but I know enough to recognize that what you did was skilled work. A flush creeps up his neck. I was studying engineering once. A long time ago. The pieces begin to fit together in Eliza's mind. This man with engineer's hands and a janitor's uniform. There's a story there, one that makes her curious in a way her privileged classmates rarely do. Will you let me buy you coffee sometime? She asks, as a proper thank you. Not charity, not a gift. Just one person appreciating another. Daniel looks up finally, meeting her eyes. Something in his expression shifts. Surprise, certainly, but also the faintest flicker of recognition. Not of who she is, but perhaps of something in her tone or manner that speaks to him. I don't think that would be appropriate, he says finally. I'm staff. You're a student. I'm also just a person who's grateful, Eliza counters. And you're just a person who did something kind. The silence between them stretches, filled with the soft hum of the building's ventilation system and the distant sound of a vacuum cleaner in another hallway. Saturday, he says finally. 11 a.m. The coffee shop on Maple, not the campus one. He pauses, but only this once. Eliza smiles, a genuine expression rarely seen by anyone at Westlake. Saturday at 11. I'll be there. Daniel spends the rest of his shift in a state of bewilderment, his routine motions performed on autopilot while his mind replays the encounter. Eliza hadn't been what he expected. Not a harried young man, but a composed young woman with intelligent eyes and a quiet confidence that reminded him of someone, though he couldn't place who. What had possessed him to agree to coffee? After 15 years of careful boundaries between himself and the academic world he once aspired to join, he had broken his own rules. Perhaps it was simple loneliness, or maybe it was the way she looked at him, not through him or past him, but at him as if he were fully visible. Saturday arrives crisp and sunny, autumn asserting itself in the reddening leaves along Maple Street. Daniel arrives at the coffee shop 20 minutes early, dressed in his best clothes, which means jeans without wear at the knees and a button-down shirt he saves for rare occasions. He chooses a table near the back, angled to see the door. At precisely 11, Eliza enters. She's dressed simply. Dark jeans, a gray sweater, hair pulled back, but there's something in her bearing that draws eyes. She carries herself with the unconscious assurance of someone who has never questioned her right to occupy space. She spots him immediately and approaches with a smile. You came. I said I would. Daniel stands awkwardly until she sits. Many people say things they don't mean. She settles across from him. Thank you for being a man of your word. The conversation starts haltingly. Polite questions about his work at the university, her studies in engineering management, but as the minutes pass, something shifts. Daniel finds himself talking about his own interrupted education, the factory closure that had cost him his tuition funds, the series of setbacks that transformed temporary janitorial work into a permanent life. I was 3 credits short, he admits, staring into his coffee. 1 class away from my degree in electrical engineering. But by then, I was already 35 with medical bills from the work injury and my mother's nursing home costs. Going back wasn't an option. Eliza listens intently, asking questions that reveal a genuine interest in his story. She doesn't offer pity or empty assurances that things will improve, something Daniel appreciates more than she could know. So you use your workshop at the university to keep your skills sharp, she observes. Fixing things people discard. It gives purpose to the nights, he says simply. And it seems wasteful to throw away things that can be repaired, including my laptop. Especially your laptop. It's a good machine, worth saving. The conversation turns to her thesis project, optimizing resource distribution in manufacturing settings. Daniel surprises himself by offering insights from his factory days, perspectives she wouldn't find in academic papers. You understand systems in a way my professors don't, she says, leaning forward. They know the theory, but you've seen the human elements that make or break a system? Her words warm something long cold inside him. Book learning only takes you so far, he says. Real life is messier. That's exactly what I've been trying to incorporate into my models, Eliza says, excitement brightening her features. The human variables. But I'm missing practical examples. Before Daniel quite realizes what's happening, they've spent 2 hours in conversation, and Eliza is asking if he would be willing to meet again, to share more of his practical knowledge for her research. I'd compensate you for your time, of course, she adds quickly. Daniel shakes his head. No payment, but I could look at your work if you think it would help. Something in her expression softens. It would help. More than you know. As they prepare to leave, an older couple passes their table. The woman smiles warmly at them. What a lovely father-daughter day out, she comments. Daniel freezes, embarrassment washing over him, but Eliza merely smiles back. We're colleagues, actually, she corrects gently. He's helping me with my research. Colleagues. The word echoes in Daniel's mind as they part ways outside the coffee shop. For a brief moment, she had treated him as an equal, not as someone to be pitied or overlooked, but as a person with valuable knowledge to share. Their coffee meetings become a weekly occurrence. Each Saturday at 11, they occupy the same table in the back corner. Daniel arriving early, Eliza precisely on time. She brings printouts of her research models, and he marks them with suggestions drawn from decades of observing how systems function in reality versus theory. Daniel finds himself looking forward to Saturdays with an intensity that both pleases and frightens him. These meetings exist in a strange, liminal space, neither fully professional nor personal, a fragile connection across worlds that rarely intersect. He knows it's temporary. When her thesis is complete, when she graduates and moves on to the corporate career clearly awaiting her, these meetings will end. But for now, they give his weeks a rhythm beyond the monotony of night shifts and empty hallways. On campus, they maintain their separate orbits. She never acknowledges him when they occasionally pass in hallways, and he appreciates the discretion. It would raise questions neither of them wants to answer. Why a graduate student meets regularly with a janitor? What possible academic interest could explain their connection? As autumn deepens toward winter, Daniel notices subtle changes in Eliza. The composed mask she wears among her peers sometimes slips during their meetings, revealing flashes of doubt and frustration beneath her confidence. My father's company is expecting me to join them after graduation, she confides during their 6th meeting. It's been the plan since I was a child. The path is already mapped out. Management training, then operations, eventually upper executive. That's a fortunate position, Daniel observes carefully. I know. Her fingers trace patterns on the tabletop. I know how privileged I am. That's not lost on me, Daniel. But sometimes I wonder if I'm pursuing this degree because I want it, or because it's what's expected. Daniel considers her words. What would you do if expectations weren't a factor? The question hangs between them, weighty and unexpected. Eliza looks startled, as if no one has ever asked her this before. I don't know, she admits finally. That's the problem. I've never allowed myself to consider alternatives. Perhaps that's your first step then, he suggests. Not making a different choice necessarily, just acknowledging that choices exist. She studies him with an intensity that makes him slightly uncomfortable. How did you become so wise, Daniel Morrison? He laughs softly. Not wisdom, just the perspective of someone who's lived long enough to see the consequences of both following and abandoning expectations. And if you could go back, would you make different choices? The question strikes at wounds still tender after decades. Some, he acknowledges. Not all, but I'd be kinder to myself about the choices I did make. As they part that day, Eliza hesitates. I have a conference presentation next Friday evening. It's a preliminary sharing of my thesis work. She looks uncharacteristically uncertain. Would you come? It's open to the public, and your insights have shaped so much of my approach. Daniel feels a conflicting surge of pride and anxiety. I don't belong in those academic spaces anymore. You belong anywhere ideas are valued, she counters. And these are our ideas, Daniel. Yours and mine together. The hour catches him off guard. This unexpected partnership across boundaries of age and status and education. He finds himself nodding. What time? 7 o'clock. Harper Auditorium. Her smile transforms her face, making her look younger, less burdened. Thank you. The week passes in a haze of anticipation and dread. Daniel finds himself taking unusual care with his appearance on Friday, shaving meticulously and wearing the single suit he owns, purchased years ago for his mother's funeral and rarely worn since. Harper Auditorium is already filling when he arrives. Academics and students mingling in the foyer. He feels painfully conspicuous, certain everyone can identify him as an imposter in these hallowed halls. A few faculty members glance at him with vague recognition before their eyes slide past. The momentary confusion of seeing someone out of context. He takes a seat near the back, half hidden behind a column. The presentations begin. Graduate students outlining their research in 10-minute segments, fielding questions from professors and industry representatives. The language is dense with jargon. The PowerPoint slides filled with charts and graphs that make Daniel's eyes blur. Then Eliza takes the stage, and the room seems to sharpen into focus. She looks different tonight, professionally dressed in a tailored blazer and skirt, hair elegantly arranged. But it's her presence that commands attention, the quiet authority with which she addresses the audience. Resource optimization in manufacturing has traditionally been approached as a purely technical problem. She begins. But my research suggests that ignoring human factors creates inefficiencies that technical solutions cannot address. Daniel watches transfixed as she presents models they've discussed, now refined and expanded, but clearly influenced by their conversations. She speaks with confidence but without arrogance, acknowledging complexities and limitations in her approach. When she opens for questions, a silver-haired man in the front row raises his hand first. Ms. Chen, your emphasis on worker input and process design runs counter to established efficiency models. What evidence suggests this produces better outcomes? Daniel stiffens at the dismissive tone, but Eliza remains composed. 3 case studies demonstrate reduced waste and higher production consistency when floor workers participate in system design. Page 17 of your handout details these findings. The questioning continues, some supportive, others challenging, but Eliza handles each with the same measured competence. Daniel feels a strange swelling in his chest. Pride, yes, but also something more complex. This brilliant young woman had valued his perspective, had woven his lived experience into her academic work. As the session ends and people begin filing out, Daniel remains seated, wanting to congratulate her, but uncertain of the protocol. Should he approach her here, among her peers and professors? Would she welcome the acknowledgement of their connection in this setting? His decision is made for him when Eliza spots him and makes her way directly to where he sits, navigating through departing attendees with purpose. You came, she says, genuine pleasure warming her voice. Your presentation was excellent. He responds, standing awkwardly. Very impressive. I couldn't have developed these models without your input. She glances around, then lowers her voice. Several industry representatives want to discuss applications, including someone from Horizon Technologies. That's wonderful. A good connection to have. Something flickers across her expression. Hesitation, perhaps. Yes, well, networking is important in this field. Before Daniel can respond, a man approaches. Tall, distinguished, with an air of authority that seems to reconfigure the space around him. He moves with the confidence of someone accustomed to immediate attention. His tailored suit and subtle accessories, speaking of wealth so secure it needs no advertisement. Eliza, he says warmly. Excellent presentation. Your mother would have been proud. Daniel watches as Eliza's posture subtly shifts, straightening, tensing. Thank you, Father. Father. The word crashes through Daniel's consciousness. This man is Eliza's father, which means William Chen, the man says, extending his hand to Daniel. Eliza's father. Daniel takes the offered hand automatically, his mind racing to catch up. William Chen, Chief Executive Officer of Horizon Technologies, one of the wealthiest businessmen in the state, and Eliza is his daughter. Daniel Morrison, he manages. I'm one of my research sources. Eliza interjects smoothly. Mr. Morrison has extensive practical experience in manufacturing systems. William Chen's handshake is firm, his assessment swift and comprehensive. Fascinating. Always valuable to incorporate frontline perspectives. Are you consulting on multiple projects at the university? The question carries assumptions. That Daniel is a professional consultant, that his presence at an academic conference is routine. Eliza's careful framing has created a plausible explanation for his presence, one that preserves his dignity without requiring explicit lies. My work is primarily with Miss Chen's project. Daniel replies carefully. Well, I appreciate your contribution to my daughter's research. William says, if you'll excuse us, we have a dinner reservation with the department chair. As they prepare to leave, Eliza catches Daniel's eye. Saturday as usual? She asks quietly. He nods, unable to form words around the revelation still expanding in his mind. Eliza Chen, daughter of William Chen, the wealthiest student at Westlake, pretending to be just another graduate student struggling with a broken laptop. He watches them walk away, the powerful CEO and his brilliant daughter, moving through the world with an ease Daniel has never known. Daniel doesn't sleep that night. He replays every interaction with Eliza, searching for signs he should have recognized. Had she been laughing at him all along? A rich girl slumming with the janitor, collecting his simple wisdom like an anthropologist studying a primitive culture? But that interpretation doesn't match the Eliza he's come to know. Thoughtful, genuinely curious, respectful of his experience. She had never condescended or pitied. If anything, she had treated him with more genuine respect than most people he encountered at the university. Still, the knowledge creates a chasm between them that hadn't existed before, or perhaps had always existed, but now stands revealed in its true enormity. What could a janitor with a broken-down car and a rented apartment possibly offer the daughter of William Chen? When Saturday arrives, Daniel nearly doesn't go to the coffee shop. Pride urges him to disappear, to slip back into invisibility rather than face the awkwardness of their new reality. But a deeper instinct, perhaps the same one that had prompted him to fix her laptop in the first place, propels him forward. Eliza is already there when he arrives, a departure from their usual pattern. She looks up as he approaches, relief washing over her features. I wasn't sure you'd come, she says as he sits. Neither was I. The admission hangs between them, acknowledging the shift in their dynamic. Eliza's fingers twist around her coffee cup. I should have told you who my father is, she says finally, but I never tell anyone. Not because I'm ashamed, but because it changes how people see me, how they interact with me. Like hiding that you're a janitor when you present at academic conferences. The words come out more bitterly than he intended. She flinches slightly. I didn't mean to misrepresent you. I just thought the specifics of your job weren't relevant to your contributions. Except they are, Eliza. Who I am, what I do, it's all connected. Just like who your father is shapes your opportunities, whether you acknowledge it or not. She looks down at her hands. You're right. I'm sorry. When she raises her eyes again, there's a vulnerability there he hasn't seen before. Does it change things between us? Now that you know? The question carries weight beyond its simple phrasing. Daniel considers it carefully. It changes the context, he admits, but not the content, not the conversations we've had or the work we've done together. Something relaxes in her expression. I've never had a friend who didn't care about my family connections. Even the ones who pretend not to care, they care. Friend? The word settles between them, defining what has been developing over these Saturday mornings. Not mentor and student, not consultant and researcher, but two people who have come to value each other's company and perspective. Why didn't you just buy a new laptop? He asked suddenly. You could certainly afford it. A small smile touches her lips. I was going to. Had already ordered one, actually. But then someone fixed the old one, and I became curious about who would do that and why. She meets his eyes directly. Best decision I never made. The simple honesty in her voice dissolves something hard and defensive in Daniel's chest. For what it's worth, I would have fixed your laptop even if I'd known who you were. I believe you. She hesitates, then reaches across the table to touch his hand briefly. That's what makes you extraordinary, Daniel. Not what you know or what you can do, but who you are. The touch is fleeting but carries a warmth that lingers. For the first time in their acquaintance, Daniel allows himself to fully see the young woman before him, not as a student, not as a CEO's daughter, but as Eliza. Brilliant, searching, caught between worlds of her own. Winter descends on Westlake, transforming the campus with snow that muffles Daniel's footsteps as he makes his nightly rounds. The semester is ending, students frantically preparing for finals, the tension palpable even in the emptied classrooms he cleans each night. His relationship with Eliza has settled into a new pattern. Their Saturday coffee meetings continue, but she also occasionally joins him during his dinner break, bringing food to share in his small workshop. She never comments on the modesty of the space, instead treating it with a respect that acknowledges its importance to him. "I have something to show you," she says one evening, producing a letter from her bag. "I've been accepted for a manufacturing innovation fellowship. 6 months working directly with production teams in 3 different industries." "That's wonderful," Daniel says, genuinely pleased for her. "When do you start?" "February." She hesitates. "It's in Chicago." The information lands with unexpected weight. Daniel had known their connection was temporary, had reminded himself of this fact repeatedly, but the concrete timeline makes it suddenly, painfully real. "Chicago's a great city," he manages. "Excellent manufacturing history. It's also far away," she says quietly, watching his face. "You'll do brilliantly." He focuses on arranging tools that don't need arranging. "Your father must be proud." A complicated expression crosses her features. Actually, he's not entirely supportive. This isn't the corporate track he envisioned. Daniel looks up surprised. "You're charting your own course then? Trying to—" Her smile is tentative. "Someone wise once suggested I acknowledge that choices exist, even if expectations point elsewhere." The reference to their earlier conversation warms him. Sounds like someone worth listening to. He is. Her eyes hold his. "I've been thinking about choices a lot lately. About paths not taken and second chances." There's a weight to her words that Daniel can't quite interpret. Before he can respond, her phone chimes with a reminder. "I have to go, study group for finals." She stands gathering her things. "Saturday as usual?" "Wouldn't miss it." After she leaves, Daniel sits alone in his workshop, contemplating the approaching end to their strange friendship. February is only 2 months away. He should be preparing himself for her departure, reinforcing the emotional walls that had protected him for so many years before Eliza Chen crashed through them with a broken laptop and genuine curiosity. Instead, he finds himself dwelling on her words about choices and second chances, wondering what possibilities might exist that he has been too afraid to acknowledge. The last Saturday before winter break dawns brutally cold, the temperature barely reaching 0 even at midday. The coffee shop is nearly empty when Daniel arrives. Most students already departed for holiday travels. Eliza appears precisely at 11, cheeks flushed from the cold, a small wrapped package in her hands. "Merry almost Christmas," she says, sliding into her usual seat. "I didn't realize we were exchanging gifts," Daniel says, discomfort rising at being caught unprepared. "It's not really a gift, more of a proposition." She pushes the package across the table. "Open it?" Cautiously, Daniel unwraps the package to reveal a leather portfolio. Inside, he finds official Westlake University letterhead and a formal letter addressed to him. "Dear Mr. Morrison, based on your extensive practical experience and the recommendation of faculty in our engineering management program, we would like to offer you a position as technical advisor to our manufacturing systems laboratory." He looks up, bewildered. "What is this?" "It's a part-time position," Eliza explains, leaning forward intently. 15 hours a week working with graduate students on practical applications of their theoretical models. The pay is decent, not amazing, but better than custodial wages. And it would count as professional experience if you ever wanted to complete your degree. Daniel stares at the letter, emotions colliding too rapidly to name. "How did this happen?" "I spoke with Professor Winters about your contributions to my thesis. Showed him some of our collaborative models." She hesitates. "I didn't mention your current position, just your background and expertise. He was impressed enough to create this position." "Eliza," Daniel carefully returns the letter to the portfolio. "I appreciate what you're trying to do, but before you say no," she interrupts, "this isn't charity or pity. The department needs someone with your knowledge. Academic theory only gets us so far. You've said that yourself. This is a legitimate position that you're qualified for." "Does Professor Winters know I'm a janitor?" She meets his eyes steadily. "He does now? I told him after he had already decided to offer you the position. He said, and I quote, 'I don't care if he's been cleaning toilets or running General Motors. If he knows manufacturing systems like you say, we want him.'" Daniel sits back, processing the implications. A chance to use his mind again, to share knowledge accumulated over decades of observation and hands-on experience, to step back into the world he'd reluctantly left behind so many years ago. What about your father? He asked finally. How would William Chen feel about his daughter creating opportunities for university maintenance staff? Something hardens in Eliza's expression. My father doesn't control Westlake University or its hiring practices. And while I may have brought your expertise to Professor Winter's attention, he made the decision based on merit. She leans forward. But more importantly, Daniel, my father doesn't control my friendships or my right to recognize talent where I find it. The fierce conviction in her voice silences his objections. He looks down at the portfolio again, allowing himself to imagine the possibility it represents. I'd need to keep my custodial position, he says slowly, at least at first. The benefits, health insurance, I can't risk losing that. Hope blooms in Eliza's expression. Professor Winters already discussed that with HR. You can maintain both positions as long as the hours don't conflict. The advisory role has flexible scheduling. She's thought of everything, removing obstacles before he could fully form them. The realization is both touching and slightly overwhelming. This brilliant young woman has directed her considerable problem-solving abilities toward creating an opportunity for him. Why are you doing this, Eliza? He asks quietly. Her expression softens. Because you fixed my laptop when you didn't have to. Because you shared your knowledge without expectation of return. Because talent and wisdom shouldn't be wasted cleaning floors when they could be shaping the next generation of engineers. She pauses. And because you're my friend, and friends help each other recognize their own value. The simple truth of her words penetrates defenses built over decades of disappointment and diminished expectations. For the first time in longer than he can remember, Daniel allows himself to want something more than survival, to reach for purpose and recognition without shame. I'll think about it, he says finally. Seriously think about it. Her smile could illuminate the darkened campus. That's all I ask. Christmas passes quietly for Daniel, as it has for many years. He volunteers for the holiday shift at Westlake, earning double pay to maintain the skeletal operations of a nearly empty campus. In the stillness of vacant buildings, he contemplates the portfolio that now sits on his apartment kitchen table, its contents representing a fork in the path of his carefully constrained life. The new year arrives with bitter cold and renewed purpose. After careful consideration and one sleepless night, Daniel accepts the advisory position, scheduling his hours in the late afternoon before his custodial shift begins. Professor Winters, a practical, no-nonsense man with little patience for academic pretension, welcomes him with a firm handshake and immediate immersion in ongoing projects. The transition is not without challenges. Some graduate students regard him with thinly veiled skepticism when they learn of his background. Others, particularly international students less attuned to American class distinctions, simply evaluate him on the usefulness of his input. Within weeks, Daniel establishes a reputation for solving practical problems that have stymied theoretical approaches. Eliza returns from winter break to find Daniel settling into his dual role at the university. Their Saturday coffee meetings resume, now enriched by shared professional context as well as personal connection. She watches with quiet satisfaction as he gradually straightens his posture, speaks with increasing confidence, reclaims parts of himself long suppressed by circumstance. January passes in a blur of adjustment and possibility. With each week, the approaching reality of Eliza's departure for Chicago looms larger, casting a shadow over their strengthening friendship. Neither speaks directly about what will happen after she leaves, as if acknowledging the separation might somehow accelerate it. On the last Saturday before her departure, they meet at their usual table. February has arrived brutally cold. The coffee shop windows frosted with intricate patterns that diffuse the weak winter sunlight. I leave on Tuesday, she says after they've exhausted safer topics of conversation. I know. Daniel cups his hands around his coffee mug, absorbing its warmth. Chicago won't know what hit it. A small smile touches her lips. I'm nervous. Is that strange? I've been working toward this for so long, but now that it's here, it's not strange at all. New beginnings should be a little frightening. Means you're pushing boundaries. Kanu worries you. You would know about that. She studies him across the table. How is it going? Really? The advisory position? Daniel considers the question. Challenging, rewarding, occasionally frustrating. He smiles slightly. Professor Winters asked me yesterday if I'd consider teaching a practical application seminar next fall. Daniel, that's wonderful. I haven't decided yet. It would mean reducing my custodial hours further, maybe eventually transitioning completely. Is that what you want? The directness of her question catches him off guard. What does he want? For so many years, wants had been luxuries he couldn't afford to acknowledge. Survival had been the only goal, with small pleasures, fixing discarded electronics, reading library books, watching the sunset from his apartment window, the only indulgences. I think it might be, he admits, to use my mind again, to contribute something besides clean floors. The floors matter too, Eliza says softly. But you contain multitudes, Daniel Morrison. You always have. The recognition in her eyes of his complexity, his potential, his worth beyond utility, creates a tightness in his chest that isn't entirely uncomfortable. For months now, she has seen him more clearly than anyone has in decades, perhaps more clearly than he has seen himself. I owe you a debt I can't repay, he says finally. She shakes her head firmly. You owe me nothing. This was always in you. I just happened to notice because you fixed my laptop. The best broken laptop in history, he says with a small smile. Serendipity. Her expression grows serious. I have something for you. Another proposition of sorts. From her bag, she produces an envelope and slides it across the table. Inside, Daniel finds a business card for William Chen, CEO of Horizon Technologies, with a handwritten note on the back regarding Daniel Morrison. Call me directly. What is this? He asks, confusion furrowing his brow. My father's company has a technical advisor program similar to what you're doing at Westlake, but focused on practical innovation in manufacturing processes. Eliza meets his eyes steadily. I told him about your background and expertise. He's interested in discussing possibilities when I complete my fellowship. Daniel stares at the card, emotions warring within him. You told your father about me? About us? About our work together, yes. She hesitates. Not all the details of how we met. Just that you've been instrumental in developing the models that impressed his R&D department. The card feels impossibly heavy in his hand. Eliza, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything now. It's not an offer, just a door that might open in the future. Her expression softens. After all, we both believe in second chances, don't we? The question resonates with everything that has passed between them since that first note left beside a repaired laptop. A second chance at using his education. A second chance at professional recognition. A second chance at believing his life could still hold surprises beyond disappointment. We do, he agrees quietly. Though some might call this a first chance, finally arriving very late. Better late than never. She glances at her watch reluctantly. I should go. Still so much packing to do before Tuesday. As they prepare to leave, the weight of imminent separation settles between them. 6 months suddenly seems an eternity. The future beyond it uncertain and uncharted. I'll email, she promises, and call when I can. The fellowship is intensive, but you'll be busy building your future, Daniel says gently. As you should be. Don't worry about the janitor back at Westlake. Technical advisor? She corrects firmly. And friend. A friend I'll miss very much. The simple honesty in her voice reaches something deep within him. Without overthinking, Daniel reaches out and briefly squeezes her hand, the first time he has initiated contact between them. Thank you, he says quietly, for seeing possibilities I'd stopped believing in. Her fingers tighten around his before releasing. That's what friends do. They help us see ourselves more clearly. Outside the coffee shop, they part ways. Eliza toward her apartment to continue packing, Daniel toward the university where he will spend the evening in his workshop, not cleaning, but creating, repairing a student's tablet that would otherwise be discarded. As he walks through the snow-covered campus, Daniel realizes that something fundamental has shifted within him. The buildings around him, once merely spaces he maintained in obscurity, now represent possibility. His hands, calloused from years of labor, now remember their capacity for precision and creation. His mind, long restricted to practical concerns of survival, now expands toward horizons he'd thought permanently closed. All because he fixed a broken laptop for a student who turned out to be so much more than a CEO's daughter. She was the catalyst for his reinvention, yes, but the capacity had always been within him, waiting for the right moment to emerge. 6 months will pass. Eliza will return, changed by her experiences. Daniel will continue his dual path at Westlake, reclaiming parts of himself long surrendered to circumstance. Whether their futures intersect again, through Horizon Technologies or the university or those Saturday coffee meetings, remains unwritten. But something has been repaired that matters far more than a cracked screen or damaged power management chip. In the quiet exchanges between an unlikely janitor and an unexpected student, Two souls recognized each other's value beyond labels and limitations. And in that recognition, both found a kind of healing, the restoration of possibility, the rebirth of dreams long deferred. Daniel turns his face toward the setting sun, its light transforming ordinary snow into fields of diamonds. For the first time in many years, he allows himself to look forward to tomorrow and all the tomorrows after, with something that feels remarkably like hope.